Humanity's oldest story, the Epic of Gilgamesh. Before we begin the story itself, let's take a step back in time. Before the rise of empires, before the pharaohs of Egypt built their pyramids, before Homer penned the Iliad, before the first words of the Bible were ever written, there was a story. A tale that has survived the test of time, not through ink on parchment, but through the pressure of a stylus into wet clay. This is the Epic of Gilgamesh, humanity's oldest known piece of literature, dating back over 4,000 years to ancient Mesopotamia, what is now modern-day Iraq. It was written in cuneiform script, on a series of clay tablets discovered in the ruins of the great library of Ashurbanipal in Nineveh. The fact that this story still exists is nothing short of a miracle. We owe its survival to the durability of baked clay and the dedication of archaeologists who unearthed the forgotten words of an ancient world. The mythological world of Gilgamesh begins with the Sumerian gods, beings of immense power who created the universe and gave form to the earth. At the dawn of time, there was An, the god of the heavens, and Ki, the goddess of the earth. Together they bore Enlil, god of the wind and air, a being so powerful he separated heaven from earth. From this divine family, a host of gods and goddesses emerged. They shaped the rivers, mountains, and humanity itself. Among their creations was Gilgamesh, a man like no other. King of Uruk, Gilgamesh was described as 2/3 divine and 1/3 human. He was unmatched in strength, beauty, and wisdom. His city, Uruk, was one of the greatest of ancient Mesopotamia, with massive walls that he himself had built. But Gilgamesh's power came at a price. Arrogant and tyrannical, he ruled his people harshly, taking what he wanted and caring little for the consequences. His people cried out to the gods, and the gods answered, not with punishment, but with a companion. From the clay of the wilderness, the gods formed Enkidu, a man of the wild, covered in hair, who lived among the animals. He was pure and untamed, a reflection of nature itself. But he would not remain wild for long. A priestess named Shamhat was sent to civilize him. Through human connection, food, drink, and love, Enkidu was transformed. He became aware of himself and of the human world, and with that he lost his innocence. When Enkidu heard of Gilgamesh's cruelty, he journeyed to Uruk to confront him. The two men fought, mighty blows shaking the very city walls, but neither could defeat the other. And in the struggle they found something unexpected: respect, and then friendship. They became inseparable, bound not just by power but by loyalty. And together they set out to prove their strength to the world. Their first journey took them to the cedar forest, home of the fearsome monster Humbaba, a creature appointed by the gods to guard the sacred trees. His breath was fire, and his voice was thunder. The trees themselves whispered warnings as the two heroes approached. Despite divine warnings, Gilgamesh and Enkidu pressed on. With the help of the sun god Shamash, who sent 7 winds to bind Humbaba, they engaged the beast in a brutal battle. Enkidu's axe cut through bark and flesh, while Gilgamesh's sword flashed like lightning. The air shook with their fury. Humbaba begged for mercy, but they struck him down. It was a moment of glory, but also of defiance against the gods. They then chopped down the sacred cedar trees, building a great raft to return to Uruk in triumph. Soon after, the goddess Ishtar approached Gilgamesh, offering herself in marriage. But Gilgamesh rejected her, mocking her cruelty and her past lovers, all of whom had met terrible fates. Furious, Ishtar demanded revenge. She persuaded her father Anu to unleash the bull of heaven upon Uruk. The beast cracked the earth beneath its hooves, causing great devastation. Hundreds fell with every snort. But again, Gilgamesh and Enkidu fought side by side. They dodged, they struck, they wounded the bull. Enkidu seized it by the tail while Gilgamesh drove his sword between its shoulders. The creature collapsed. They had slain the bull of heaven. But the gods would not be mocked. The gods convened, and Enkidu was chosen to pay the price. He was struck with a deadly illness, a slow and wasting death. As he lay dying, he cursed the trap of civilization, the door to the forest he helped make, and even Shamhat. But before the end, he repented and blessed her, realizing the beauty of life that he had been given, however short. He died in Gilgamesh's arms, and the mighty king mourned for 7 days and nights, refusing to let his friend be buried, hoping he would awaken. When he finally accepted Enkidu's death, Gilgamesh was changed. The king who had once feared nothing now feared everything, especially death. So he began a quest, a journey across the world to find Utnapishtim, the man granted eternal life by the gods. Gilgamesh crossed burning deserts, dark mountains, and deep seas. He encountered scorpion men at the gate of the mountains, who guarded the path to the tunnel of the sun, a 12-league-long darkness that no mortal had ever crossed. Emerging on the other side, he found a lush paradise and eventually the boatman Urshanabi, who helped him cross the waters of death to reach Utnapishtim. There, Gilgamesh heard the story of the Great Flood, how the gods once sought to destroy humanity, and how Utnapishtim, warned by the god Ea, built a great boat. He survived, releasing a dove, a swallow, and a raven, just like later flood legends. For his obedience, the gods granted Utnapishtim and his wife eternal life, but they made it clear, such a gift would never again be given. Still, Utnapishtim offered Gilgamesh a chance. Stay awake for 7 days. If he could resist sleep, he might be worthy. But Gilgamesh failed. Exhausted from his journey and grief, he fell into a deep sleep. Utnapishtim had loaves of bread baked beside him each day to prove how long he had slept. Defeated, Gilgamesh prepared to leave. But before he did, Utnapishtim's wife urged her husband to offer a final gift, the plant of eternal youth, a thorny herb that grew deep beneath the ocean. Gilgamesh dove into the waters, tied stones to his feet, and retrieved the plant. Hope stirred in him again. He doesn't use it immediately. Instead, he says he'll take it back to Uruk and test it on an old man, then use it himself. But during the return journey, he stops at a well or spring to rest. While he is sleeping, a snake smells the plant, slithers up, and eats it. The snake then sheds its skin, renewed and young once more. To this day, snakes shed their skin, a sign of their connection to eternal renewal, while humanity remains mortal. Gilgamesh wept, not just for the plant, but for everything lost. And that is the heart of the Epic of Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh returned to Uruk, not with eternal life, but with wisdom. He looked at the mighty walls of his city and saw something more than stone. He saw legacy. He saw the mark of a man who had lived, loved, and lost. It's not just a tale of gods and monsters, it's a reflection of what it means to be human. To grapple with death, to long for purpose, to mourn and to grow. The story touches on friendship, grief, hubris, transformation, and the realization that life's meaning lies in the legacy we leave behind. It echoes through time. The themes in Gilgamesh reappear in countless cultures and faiths. The Great Flood, the hero's journey, the fear of death, the pain of losing a friend, the search for wisdom. This story, etched in clay over 4,000 years ago, laid the foundation for the epics, myths, and legends that followed. And even now, it speaks to us. The oldest story we've ever known still reminds us who we are. But is it the oldest? Subscribe to uncover the myths that may reach even further back into the shadows of time.